Good con so far? Can I get a yeah? Well, man, we are about to kick FanExpo 2012 off in the most amazing way possible. Thank you all so much for coming. My name is Teddy Wilson. I'm one of the hosts of Inner Space on the Space Channel. And I heard my mom woo out there. Thank you. And it's a huge honor to be here. It's my favorite time of the year, but it's an extra honor to be here right now to introduce FanExpo 2012's guest of honor. Maybe we should bring him out. Should we do a 1, 2, 3 Excelsior? What do you think? Yeah. He'll hear it in the back. It'll come out. 1, 2, 3, Excelsior! Please welcome Stan Lee.
I heard that magic word. Well, Dorothy, it looks like you're not in Kansas anymore. Hey, good to see you all. It's been a pleasure, and I hope I see you again next year.
Stan Lee, ladies and gentlemen.
I just got off the damn plane. I didn't know I'd have to come and make a speech. Well, I'm not going to make a speech. What are we going to do? Answer questions?
We're gonna do some questions. Yeah, so we're gonna open the floor to questions. There's Michelle.
And you better make your questions easy. It's been a tough day, and I'm not that good at answering, and we haven't even been formally introduced. Can I sit down? Am I allowed to sit down? Okay.
Should we do introductions? Stan Lee, FanExpo.
Thank you very much. You were so great last year that I decided to come back. That'll teach you. Now, don't be so great this time.
Before we get to the first question, I want to ask you, I mean, obviously the characters that you've created and the iconography you created has been big for a long time, but has the level of big with the success of the Avengers shocked even you?
Yeah, they were pretty successful. You know, I can't take the credit for all the movies. There were other guys responsible. There were actors, writers, directors. Of course, I was the inspiration. We might as well face it. Why is there nothing to be? There we go. And yeah, speaking of the movies, have they all been here? Oh, wait till you see. Wait till you see my cameo in the next Iron Man movie. In fact, all of the ones coming up are going to be very funny. So don't, whatever you... Oh, did I tell you why the Avengers made so much money? Speaking of cameos. Here's a little secret, but don't let our competitors know this. They may try to do the same thing. They put my is this making a lot? Is this all right? Maybe if you go like Am I talking too close?
I think it's like that.
I should hold it like this.
Yeah, maybe like
okay, I don't want to boom out there. They made my cameo very brief, and they put it at the end of the movie where some people were apt to not see it. So if somebody misses my cameo, what does he do, or she? They go and buy another ticket and sit through the movie again because they don't want to miss it. So I figure that half of the sales of the Avenger were due to me. And it's very obvious. I shouldn't have to tell you. I'm sure you're all aware of that.
All right, so I'm sure you all have a lot of questions. Michelle, if you put your hand up, there's Michelle with the microphone. And she's got the first question right there. Hello.
I was just wondering, science plays a huge role in many of the storylines for mutation to the technological innovations of Tony Stark. I was wondering if you could comment how you feel that those storylines have influenced the readers into taking an interest in science.
I heard something about influence. I couldn't make out the rest of it.
Scientific storylines in Iron Man especially influence people to actually get into science.
Oh, well, yes. That's another thing that I'm responsible for. And I got to tell you a funny thing about that. I am not the kind of guy who does research and I'm not a wizard at science. So when I wanted the Fantastic Four to get their power, I figured I'd have them blasted by cosmic rays. I wouldn't know a cosmic ray if I saw one, but it sounded good. You know, they were whacked by a cosmic ray. Then I needed something that Bruce Banner would turn him into the Hulk. So I figured I already used a cosmic ray, I'll use a gamma ray. I don't know the difference between a cosmic ray and a gamma ray. I don't know what either of them do or what they look like, but he was a gamma ray. With Spider-Man, I had run out of rays. So I figured I'll go to the insect kingdom. And with the X-Men, I couldn't think of what the hell to do, so I took the cowardly way out, and I said they were born that way. So that's really the extent of my scientific knowledge, although I'm happy to take credit for whatever comes of that. Thank you, culture lovers.
I have to tell you, when I interviewed you in Calgary, I asked you if you thought Mark Ruffalo did a great job.
I did. You're talking too fast. I can't make it easy.
I asked you if you thought Mark Ruffalo did a good job as the Hulk in Calgary, and we played him the clip when we had him in studio, and he literally jumped up and down. Did anybody see that? So you made Bruce Banner very happy. What did you think of Mark?
I tend to do that. I make people happy. I haven't been doing so good with you, but hell, you didn't pay that much.
Let's go back out to the floor for another question. Hello.
Hi. What gave you the inspiration of making Spider-Man?
What gave you the inspiration to create Spider-Man?
Oh boy, greed. I don't know. I don't know how much of an inspiration it was. I was sitting around looking for a new superhero, and I couldn't. You know, the whole thing you need when you come up with a new superhero is you got to figure out what power will you give him. So we already had a guy who could burst into flame and fly. We had somebody who was the strongest guy, on and on. I thought, what's left? And you know, I've told this story to people so often that for all I know, it might even be true. But I was looking around and I saw a fly on the wall. And I thought, wow, wouldn't it be a great idea to get a guy who could walk on walls? So that was it, but then I needed a name. So I figured I'll call him Insect Man, but that didn't sound dramatic. Mosquito Man, that didn't have it. And I went down the list and suddenly I said, Spider-Man. Oh man, you can't beat that. And so a legend was born.
And hey, happy 50th anniversary to that legend.
That's right, happy 50th, Spidey.
Michelle is at the back. There we go. Hello, fellow with the hat.
Hello, my name is John. I have two quick questions. How fun is it playing those small characters in all your Marvel movies?
All my Marvel movies.
How fun is it to do the cameos?
Oh, I love them. I love doing them. You know, I tell you the funniest thing. Somebody wrote about me in some magazine, and I guess for the people who didn't know who I was, they wrote what I am and what I do at the top, and they said, Stan Lee, actor, writer, comic book, but they said actor first, so all of a sudden I'm an actor. So you better, you know, pay attention and give me the respect that is due me. And if you all are as friendly as you seem to be, because I think a lot of you are just putting it on, but if you are, I want you all to write to the Academy, the Motion Picture Academy, and tell them that it's shameful that they don't have an award for the best cameo of the year. Now, don't let me down.
What do you think? Would all of you give Stan Lee an Oscar? Another question from the floor.
Over here, Teddy, over here, over here.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey.
Why do they say from the floor? It's from the audience. The floor doesn't talk. People should really watch their language.
I apologize.
Another question from a young lady or a young gentleman. That's the way it is.
The gentleman there.
So, looking back on your legacy of comics, is there anything that you would change about any characters you've created?
Is there anything that you would change about any of the characters that you've created?
know, honestly, I don't think I would. I did them the way I wanted them to be, and they came out the way I wanted them to be, so I have no reason to want to change them. Now, I will admit, when other writers take over the series, they like to put their own imprimatur on the stories. And they'll usually make a lot of changes, but that's okay with me. They have every right to do that. But as far as I'm concerned, I did them the way I did them. I think they were truly works of genius, and I wouldn't want to change them. You got to forgive my modest and humble attitude, but it's just the way I am.
Is it possible to pick a favorite?
No. I am not a guy who has favorites. I love them all. You know, like some people say, what's your favorite book or movie or music? I love so many of them. I don't know how you can have a favorite. And actually, my favorite comic book hero was whichever one I was writing at the moment, because that's the one I was concentrating on.
Yeah. There we go. From the young gentleman.
Hi, my name is Wyatt. How old were you when you first started sketching superheroes?
How old were you when you first started sketching superheroes?
When I started writing superheroes, how old was I? I was about 17 or 18. It all happened accidentally. I applied for a job at a publishing company. I didn't even know that they published comics. They published men's books, movie books, confession books, sports story books. They had a line of comics. And I heard that they had an opening for an assistant. So I had just graduated high school. I was about 16 and a half or 17. And I applied for the job. I must have been the only one who applied because they hired me. And I found out that they needed the assistant in the comic book department. I had never had any intention, really, I never thought of being a comic book person. But it was a job, and I needed the job. And Joe Simon and Jack Kirby were there, and they were doing Captain America at the time. And my job was to run down and get them sandwiches for lunch, or erase the pages, or fill their inkwells. They used ink in those days. And that was how I got into the business. And then one day, not long after that, Joe and Jack left. I never found out why. There's something happened with them and the publisher, and they left. So the publisher, whose name was Martin said to me, Stan, do you think you could run things till I get a grown-up to fill in the job? Well, when you're 17 years old, what do you know? I said, sure, I can do it. And he must have forgotten about me, because I've been there ever since, and that's the whole story.
When did you really fall in love with superheroes? And
I never fell in love with superheroes. I'm not gay. I enjoyed writing them, but I'll be honest with you, I enjoyed writing everything. I did Western stories, I did horror stories, crime stories, teenage stories, romance. Oh, I'll tell you a funny thing about the romance books. We did a lot of romance books way before your time. They were called My Confession, Her Confession, Girls' Confessions, Ladies' Confession, stupid names. Everything had confession in it. They were supposed to be the confessions of girls about their romantic problems and events. I was writing most of the stories, and I love putting my name on everything I write, but I couldn't say, this is Mary Smith's Confession by Stan Lee. Mary Smith would have to write it, but I wanted my name on, so I got a great idea to show you how brilliant I am. I wrote Mary Smith's Confession as told to Stan Lee. Well, you should see the mail I got from girls. I don't believe it. Why would Mary Smith tell a personal thing like that to Stan Lee? They were all indignant, but I didn't care. The book sold and my name was on it.
scandalous. Hello.
Why did you decide to make the Ultimo series?
Can you say that again, sorry?
Why did you decide to make the Ultimo series?
Why did you decide to make the Ultimo series? The Ultimo?
It was a challenge. Some of the people in Japan were sort of fans, and they asked if I would come up with a story idea that they could take and write and draw and make a book series out of it. So I came along with Ultimo and I gave it to them, and they did it. From then on, I did not do the Ultimo stories. I just gave them the idea for what it should be. And I think they're still publishing them. Somebody must be reading them. I can't understand them. I don't know.
Hello, sir.
Hi there, Tony Stark.
Did you say you're Tony Stark?
Yes.
It's a question from Tony Stark. Yeah.
This question is for Tony Stark or from Tony? From Tony Stark. Oh, I better pay attention.
I just wanted to know if you had anything to say to people trying to get into the comic business. What would your advice be?
Is everybody whispering, or have I gone stone deaf?
The mics are a little weak. What would your advice be for somebody trying to break into the comic industry?
You know, that is the toughest question I could get. We could be here all night, and I wouldn't know what to tell you. If you want to be a comic book writer, it's incredibly difficult unless you're already a professional writer, because so many people want to write the comics now because they figure if I write a story and they make it into a movie, I'll make a lot of money. So you have people who wouldn't consider writing for comics years ago, people who are novelists, who are screenwriters, who are television writers, and the top comic book writers, they're all writing the stories. So it is so difficult for a newcomer to break in unless that newcomer already has credits as a good writer in some other field. If you're an artist, it's easier, but it's tough. It's tough because you have to be at least as good as the good artists at Marvel. Because if you're not as good as they are, what do they need you for? They've already got the artists. So you have to show them art samples that'll knock their eye out. Oh man, I never saw anything like this. What a great style. But if it's just nice artwork, that's not enough. So it really is not easy to break into the comic book business, but yet there are a lot of great new artists coming along. I see them all the time in the Marvel books. So if you're one of those great new ones, be sure you bring your stuff up there. If you're a writer, I don't want to discourage you. I just want to let you know it's really difficult, and it's easier if you can make a little reputation writing other stuff. If you could have a story printed somewhere in a magazine or sell some sort of a television play or something, so then the editors at least know you're a professional and they'll read what you submit. Otherwise, they generally don't even have time.
Good advice. Good, Tony Stark? Awesome. The young lady there. Hello.
Hi. My name's Pam, and I was wondering if you plan on making a movie, Deadpool, and if it will be related to the X-Men series.
I heard if I plan about making a movie, but I couldn't tell about what.
Deathpool, and would it be related to
Deathpool.
Related, she said? Oh, Dead. Yeah. Would you make Deadpool?
Related to what?
Deathpool.
Deadpool. Yeah.
Deadpool.
Yeah.
Well-
What's the question? Would you be involved?
Let me tell you, Deadpool is such a popular character that I would be very surprised if he doesn't appear in a movie sooner or later, either as a character in another hero's movie or possibly by himself. I think with some characters, they feel at Marvel the best thing to do is introduce them in another movie, like in a Captain America or Thor or Hulk or something movie, and then when we see how popular they are, spin him off into his own movie. But those things have not yet been decided. Right now, they have so many things they're working on. They're thinking about a Doctor Strange movie, a Black Panther movie, an Ant-Man movie. There are so many things in the works. They just don't have enough time to do all the movies they want to do. And of course, then we need all the sequels, like a new Avengers and a new Iron Man and so forth.
Yeah. We'd like to see Edgar Wright direct Ant-Man. Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, the young man right there. Hello.
what made you do the decision to give up being president of Marvel?
Are you an investigative journalist, sir?
Well, I can't make it funny. I'm just going to tell you the truth. This will surprise the hell out of you, but I am not a businessman. And as president of Marvel, I had to act like a businessman. I had to go to long meetings where they discussed their 5-year plan. Now, I'm a guy who doesn't know what he's going to have for dinner tonight, but I got to think 5 years ahead for Marvel. And I wouldn't mind if they were planning what characters will we do in 5 years. But they were talking budget and finance and expenses, and I don't know that kind of stuff. So I didn't enjoy being a businessman. So that's why I resigned as president, and it's probably a good thing, because no sooner did I resign than they started making more money than ever.
Did you ever wish in those meetings you could turn into? Did you ever wish in those meetings you could turn into the Hulk?
No. You see, I shouldn't say this to you. I shouldn't say it in public, but I don't really believe in all these characters the way some people do. You see, there's a word called fiction. But I shouldn't say that. That may break some hearts in the audience. And make believe you hadn't heard that.
They're all real. They're all real. Hello.
Hi. I'm just beginning my PhD focusing on comics. I was just wondering what you think about the increasing academic attention on comics and the field that's burgeoning called like comic studies. Like, could you have predicted that that would happen? And what do you think about people dissecting and analyzing and reconstructing your characters?
I heard the word epidemic, and I heard that would happen. What came in the middle?
It was academics. She's doing a PhD in comics. What do you think about academics studying comics?
Well, they do. There are courses in comics at a lot of universities. Comics have become part of pop culture, and it's only fitting that they should, because so many people around the world read comics, and comics are such a great way to tell a story that, there are professors who write books about them and have courses in them in so many colleges, really.
She's doing a doctorate, a PhD in comic books.
You can get a PhD in comic. Oh, is that? Do we have one in the audience? Oh, well, that's wonderful. Congratulations. Wow. A PhD in comics. I think that's sensational. Oh, let me tell you something about comics. A lot of parents years ago used to tell their children, we don't want you to read comics because it stifles your imagination. You're looking at the pictures when you read the words, and you should be imagining what it looks like. And I used to debate with those people, and I used to say to them, well, let's take Shakespeare. He wasn't a bad writer, was he? Now, he wrote plays for the stage. So when you went to see a Shakespeare play, you heard the words, but you saw the actors doing whatever they were doing. That's like a comic book. You read the words and you see the pictures of the characters. The only thing is, you don't hear the words. You have to read them. So comics are really more literary even than a stage show. You have to work harder to get. I'm a big name dropper, I have to tell you this. So I was talking to Steven Spielberg one day. This was quite a few years ago, and I never forgot. He said to me, you know, Stan, you and I do pretty much the same thing, except my pictures move. And I thought that was kind of a nice thing to say, and had nothing to do with what we're talking about, so let's go to the next one.
Gentleman at the back.
Yeah, is there any, characters that you were disappointed in how they turned out in the movies?
Are there any characters that you were disappointed in the way they turned out in the films?
I would have liked the Hulk in the first two movies to be a little smaller. I thought they made him too big. I would have liked, what was the other one? Now I forgot. There was another one. No, wait, I'll think. Well, talk to each other for a minute. There was something else.
They think you're going to say Daredevil. I think you showed it.
No, I'm going to tell you, Daredevil. They just wrote the whole thing wrong. They made him... I love the character, but they made him too tragic, and that stuff with where he slept in that thing like a coffin and all those church scenes, and he was so miserable. That wasn't the Daredevil that I had in mind when I wrote him. But I think they're working on a new Daredevil movie, and I think it'll be a lot better. So don't suspend judgment till the next movie. Oh, I know the other thing I wanted to say. I wasn't happy with the way Dr. Doom was portrayed in the Fantastic Four. But to overcome that difficulty, I thought that my cameos in the Fantastic were wonderful.
Hello, the young woman there. Hello.
Hi. Hi, Stan. Do you have any new superheroes kicking around in your head right now?
Any new
I have no idea where the voice comes from. Where is it? Down there? It sounded to me like it was there. I never know. Anyway, go ahead.
She asked if you have any new superheroes that you're coming up with.
Yeah. I have a very strange situation. I'm still deeply involved with Marvel and with Disney, but I also have a little company of my own called POW Entertainment. That's P-O-W, and I know you've all figured out by now that it stands for Purveyors of Wonder. And we at POW are working on a number of new superhero movies. One of them features, the first one we're doing features a Chinese superhero. It's not a Chinese movie. It's a movie for the whole world, like all of them, but it stars a Chinese hero, and a lot of it takes place in China. And I think you will say when you see it, you've never seen anything like it. It's called The Annihilator.
You heard it here.
And we're working on another movie with one of the studios about, well, I don't think I'm allowed to talk about that because the studio wants to make the first. No, we're working on two others with other studios. You'll read about them soon. And we have a live action spectacular show in Macau in Asia, because that was the only place we could find a theater big enough. It's a show like the Cirque du Soleil, but it's more superhero based, and it's the only show where the audience is part of the show. You will read about that in about a year and a half. And we're working on other little stuff, but I don't want to bore you with that. But yes, I am working on superheroes. I like to write every type of thing, but whenever I go to a movie studio and say I have an idea for a movie, they say, what kind of superhero is it? And if I tell them it's not a superhero movie, they get disappointed and they're not interested. So I don't need a house to fall on me. I just do superheroes.
We just have time for a few more questions. Is that a Thor? Yay! Hey, Thor. Aw, the cutest Thor.
Oh, wait, I don't know what I'm waving at.
Hi, my name is Kelly.
Really?
And
I'm also half blind. Where's the
I just wanted to ask, how did you get the idea to come up with the movie Thor?
With Thor?
I didn't hear any of that.
Where did you get the idea for Thor?
You know, who knows really where any ideas come from. I was looking for a new character We had already done the Fantastic Four and Spider-Man and the X-Men and on and on. And I figured I want to get something that's even bigger and better and stronger. Well, who could be stronger than the Hulk? Who could be, and I thought, why not a god? So the Roman gods and the Greek gods had been done a lot. And you know me, I like to blaze new trails. So I figured I'll try the Norse gods. And I like the idea of Thor having that hammer. That hammer was so great. So I figured I'll do that. I didn't know that when I started the book and called him Thor, that people were going to make fun of the name and say, ooh, I fell down and hurt myself. I'm so Thor. Everybody would say little jokes about it. But now I have something very serious to tell you, so I want your undivided attention. I want to talk about the difference scientifically, because somebody earlier mentioned science, between DC and Marvel. I want to show you why Marvel is so much more technically and scientifically advanced. You've all seen Superman. Now, Superman can fly. How does he fly? He has no visible means of propulsion. He just goes like this, and he flies. Marvel is a lot more scientific. When I wanted Thor to fly, I had him wrap a leather thong between the hammer and his wrist, and he twirls the hammer around like a propeller, as only a thunder god can. And then he lets go of the hammer. Well, the hammer goes flying off, but he's attached to it at the wrist, so he goes with it. A valid scientific explanation. You may make notes if you wish.
This is the last question. Do you feel the pressure? Go ahead, sir.
I was just wondering, why did you decide on the pen name Stan Lee?
Why did you decide on the pen name Stan Lee?
Oh. You know, that's very funny. I used to have a real name. My name was Stanley Martin Lieber. And I used to practice signing it. It looked so good. I had a great signature. It looked like it belonged on the bottom of the Declaration of Independence. And I was proud of it. But when I started writing comics, oh, that was way back in 40-something, nobody had any respect for comics. And frankly, I was embarrassed to tell people what I did. I'd go to a party, and somebody would come over to me and say, hey, what do you do for a living? And I knew what to expect. So I'd say, well, I'm a writer, and I'd start to walk away. But they'd follow me. Really? What do you write? I'd say, well, stuff for children, and I'd walk a little further. Really? What kind of stuff? Sooner or later, I had to say comic books, and they would turn around and walk away from me as though I had the plague. So, I might add, incidentally, today it's different. Today I'm at a party, somebody will see me and say, excuse me, President Obama, but I gotta go talk to Stan Lee. But that didn't answer the question yet. So I was so embarrassed doing comics that I didn't want to use my real name because I thought someday I would write the great American novelist Stanley Lieber. So I cut my first name in half and I made it Stan Lee. But as I stayed in the business and the books became well known and they started selling and the name Stan Lee became well known, finally, I really had to change it legally to Stan Lee because that's the name everybody knew me as. And it's really a dumb name. I wish I could change it back, but it's too late now.
Do you all like the name?
Well, then I won't change it on account of you. You gotta wrap up Is there anything else I want to say? No. I didn't even want to say what I did say.
Your birthday's coming up in December. Anything in particular you want?
Yeah. Oh, I hate birthdays. I tell you why I hate birthdays. Or any holidays. I am a compulsive answerer. Somebody sends me an email or a letter, I feel I've got to answer. On my birthday, I get so many birthday cards. You can't, and a guy writes a whole message on it. You can't just throw it away, but I haven't got the time to answer it. So, anybody here that is impressed with my birthday, just think a nice thought, but please don't write to me, because I don't have time to answer. Okay?
How about we give Stan an early happy birthday on 1, 2, 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday!
Thank you. Hey, I gotta tell you, you're the greatest audience I ever spoke to. Thanks for putting up with me.
Stay
Excelsior!
Should we do introductions? Stan Lee, Fan Expo, FanExpo.
Thank you very much. You were so great last year that I decided to come back. That'll teach you. Now, don't be so great this time.
Before we get to the first question, I want to ask you, I mean, obviously the characters that you've created and the iconography you created has been big for a long time, but has the level of big with the success of the Avengers shocked even you?
Yeah, they were pretty successful. I can't take the credit for all the movies. There were other guys responsible. There were actors, writers, directors. Of course, I was the inspiration. We might as well face it. Why is there nothing for me to read? There we go. And yeah, speaking of the movies, have they all been here? Oh, wait till you see. Wait till... I heard that magic word. Well, Dorothy, it looks like you're not in Kansas anymore. Hey, good to see you all. It's been a pleasure, and I hope I see you again next year.
Stan Lee, ladies and gentlemen.
I just got off the damn plane. I didn't know I'd have to come and make a speech. Well, I'm not going to make a speech. What are we going to do? Answer questions?
We're gonna do some questions. Yeah, so we're gonna open the floor to questions. There's Michelle.
And you better make your questions easy. It's been a tough day, and I'm not that good at answering, and we haven't even been formally introduced.
Good con so far? Can I get a yeah? Well, man, we are about to kick FanExpo 2012 off in the most amazing way possible. Thank you all so much for coming. My name's Teddy Wilson. I'm one of the hosts of Inner Space on the Space Channel, and I heard my mom woo out there. Thank you. And it's a huge honor to be here. It's my favorite time of the year, but it's an extra honor to be here right now to introduce FanExpo 2012's guest of honor. Maybe we should bring them out. Should we do a 1, 2, 3 Excelsior? What do you think? Yeah. He'll hear it in the back. It'll come out. 1, 2, 3 Excelsior! Please welcome Stan Lee.
They go and buy another ticket and sit through the movie again because they don't want to miss it. So I figure that half of the sales of the Avenger would do to me. And it's very obvious. I shouldn't have to tell you. I'm sure you're all aware of that.
All right, so I'm sure you all have a lot of questions. Michelle, if you put your hand up, there's Michelle with the microphone, and she's got the first question right there. Hello.
Hi. I was just wondering, science plays a huge role in many of the storylines for mutation to the technological innovations of Tony Stark. I was wondering if you could comment how you feel that those storylines have influenced the readers into taking an interest in science.
Heard something about influence. I couldn't make out the rest of it. You see my cameo in the next Iron Man movie. In fact, all of the ones coming up are going to be very funny. So don't, whatever you... Oh, did I tell you why the Avengers made so much money? Speaking of cameos. Here's a little secret, but don't let our competitors know this. They may try to do the same thing. They put my is this making a lot? Is this all right?
Maybe if you go like
Am I talking too close?
I think it like that.
I should hold it like this.
Yeah, maybe like
Okay, I don't want to boom out there. They made my cameo very brief, and they put it at the end of the movie where some people were apt to not see it. So if somebody misses my cameo, what does he do? Or